On today's episode of Flashback Friday in Elvis history, I take you back to September 19th, 1958, 67 years ago tonight, a Friday night in Elvis Presley's life. He gets on the Troop train in Fort Hood, Texas, and heads to Brooklyn, New York to get on the USS Randall and head off to the Army in Germany. We're going to learn that history today and go inside that terminal in Brooklyn and see some cool footage. This is going to be a good episode, so let's get to the show. 67 years ago tonight, Elvis leaves them crying at Fort Hood. It says Private Elvis Presley boarded a train Friday night for the first leg of his trip to Germany and left crestfallen girls crying quietly in the rain. Presley, looking very trim, left a Flood Hill Fort Hood depot at 8:20 p.m., bound for New York and then to Freiburg, Germany, and duty with the 3rd Armored Division. A crowd of 75 to 100 persons gathered at the station in a steady drizzle. Famed rock and roll singer arrived on a bus and quietly boarded the train. He sat down by a window and waved. His fans waved back. There were none of the usual whining that once heralded his appearance. Instead, the group, which included a dozen presidents of various Presley fan clubs, seemed odd at the prospect of being separated by an ocean from their idol. Asked by a reporter how he felt about going overseas, Presley said, "I feel it's a duty, sir." He said he has lost about 12 pounds while at Fort Hood learning how to drive an army truck. There were 370 on the train Presley is riding. Boat leaves on Monday afternoon. The train is due at New York at 6 a.m. Monday, and his boat for Germany leaves at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the same day. It was learned that Presley's father, who has been living in nearby Killeen during his son's tour at Fort Hood, plans to follow Presley to Germany later this month. Presley's mom died at his hometown of Memphis, Tennessee during his stay at Fort Hood. Presley's fans and other curiosity seekers have been clogging Fort Hood streets for days to get a last glimpse of the singer. Neighbors of the Presley house have complained that fans drove across their lawns in their eagerness. An Army spokesperson said Presley has done a fine job at Fort Hood and has been promoted to assistant squad leader. So this is the timeline for today, 67 years ago, September 19, 1958. It says at 7 p.m., Elvis boarded this train to Fort Hood, Texas. It was called the Troop train and was destination to Brooklyn Army Terminal in Brooklyn, New York. On September the 20th, the Troop train moved northeast through Texas to Arkansas to Tennessee. It's noted that Elvis passed through Memphis on September the 20th. That was a Saturday, September the 20th, 58, where the train briefly stopped. His parents and friends saw him at the station under Army escort. So Vernon and Elvis's buddies got to see Elvis there in Memphis on that Saturday before he headed to the USS Randall in Brooklyn. Look at this photo right here. Elvis at least got one kiss through his window to a pretty brunette there. So Sunday, September the 21st, it says that the train was rolling up the eastern seaboard. Accounts indicate that it stopped in Washington, D.C. and then Philadelphia, Pennsylvania before the final leg to Brooklyn, New York. There were routine troop train stops. Elvis was kept under restricted leave and was not allowed off to mingle with fans. Now, Monday, September the 22nd, 1958, the train arrived at Brooklyn Army Terminal in New York. Elvis boarded the USS General George M. Randall with his unit bound for Germany. A large press conference was held at the dock. And you're seeing photos right now there of Elvis there in Brooklyn. So that is an account of that trip on that troop train that left out tonight 67 years ago in Fort Hood, Texas. Luckily, he did get to stop in Memphis and see his dad and family and friends before the train took off in Memphis and headed on up to Brooklyn, New York. Some history that I wanted to point out is when Elvis got on the USS General George M. Randall and headed toward Germany, he met Charlie Hodge on that boat. Charlie Hodge from Decatur, Alabama, hit it off with Elvis Presley from Tupelo, Mississippi. And they became great friends, and to me, probably the closest friend to Elvis until Elvis passed away in 1977. So Charlie met Elvis on that boat. So it's cool to know that Charlie was a part of all this there at the Brooklyn Terminal. Now, talking about the Brooklyn Terminal, 3 million soldiers went through this terminal to head out to wars. And that's pretty historic right there. This is shots from inside that terminal today. Look at that. How cool and abandoned is that? But Elvis saw this once upon a time in his life, 67 years ago, actually. So a long time ago. But this was a part of Elvis's life. And I mean, just imagine how Elvis is feeling when he's here and walking around and getting his picture taken and being interviewed and hearing the fans probably crying at him. I mean, he's probably thinking, is this it? Is it over? I mean, of course it's not. It just made him even more popular. But to be halted from being a movie star to just becoming, once again, just a normal guy on a boat with all kind of other men heading away from their families and their loved ones and all alone to a foreign country. What kind of feeling is that? Now, I heard that Elvis did get to at least say goodbye to Anita Wood there at Fort Hood, Texas, before he got on the troop train. This is a photo not from that night, but another photo of Elvis kissing her goodbye when he headed on another train. But here's a cool photo of Elvis getting off the train that I'm showing you right now with his duffel bag, just like a soldier. Private Elvis Presley here at this point. And another interesting fact that you need to know is on September the 19th, 1958, Elvis Presley's King Creole record appeared to the public. So on this same day that Elvis is boarding this train on this night, his record, King Creole, is released to the public. And that's just a strategic plan from Colonel Parker. He kept Elvis out there. He released songs while Elvis was gone overseas and in Germany. And Elvis kept selling records and his music kept playing. Of course, they kept talking about him. His photos appeared everywhere. And people were invested in the life of Elvis Presley, just like a lot of people are still today. He's been gone for now, 58 years? So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, Flashback Friday in Elvis history. 67 years ago, Fort Hood, Texas, the troop train. Elvis rock and rolled down the railroad tracks. Till next time, never know where I'll be. Like, share, comment, and don't double dribble. I'll see you down the road. Thanks for watching.